Hello, my name is Olaf Manuela. I'm married to Manuela and we have 3 grown-up children. 20 years ago, in June 2000, my family and we moved to northern Thailand to work with street children, orphan children and underprivileged children in general. So my wife and we began by visiting a slum community. We went several times a week. We went into this community. We took drinking water with us, fresh fruit, vitamins, clothes, and sometimes some toys. And we visited the children in this slum community who had no one else looking after them. Some were completely left alone. Some had a single parent who went out to work from 7 o'clock in the morning to 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon or evening, and were basically left to themselves. So we realized quite soon that these kids were living in a great danger, not just because they had to fetch for themselves, look after themselves, and sometimes the food was not nutritious enough and not healthy, and but they were also dangerous because they were exposed to all sorts of things, and so it was quite a risky place for them to live. So my wife and we felt the Lord wanted us to open homes for them, to accommodate them. So we started out by renting houses to accommodate the children, and within a very short time we had 30 children living with us. We had one home for the boys, one home for the girls, and of course for my family and I. And if you're doing a kind of ministry like this, to rent a place, to rent houses, it's not satisfactory because you need something more permanent. And also, if you rent a place, you never know if the landlord changes his mind about what they want to do with the property. Maybe they have other purposes for it, or he realizes that you have 30 children you have to accommodate, and he might take advantage of it, and the rent might go up through the roof because he knows you have no other choice than to pay. So we felt we should start to pray for our own homes. So we prayed to buy a piece of land, and also for the funds to build our first home, our own home. So by 2003 we had the funds to, after 3 years then, we had the funds to purchase a piece of land, and 2 years later we had finished building our first house on this piece of land. And so the children moved in there, and everything was fine. We had enough support coming in, which was enough on a monthly basis. We couldn't do many or more things beyond our actual needs, but that was fine. That was okay with us. The Lord has given us a good basis of faithful and generous supporters, and we are very grateful for that. But we also knew, my wife and we also knew that to the north of Thailand, there are countries where the situation was not as good, and there were great needs. So we prayed if the Lord wanted us to get involved or do something about it as well. And as we were praying and seeking the Lord, waiting on Him, the Lord spoke to us through His Word. And I want to read these verses to you. You find them in Isaiah chapter 54, verses 2 and 3. Enlarge the place of your tent, and let them stretch out the curtains of your habitation. Do not spare, lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. For you shall expand to the left and to the right, and your children will inherit the nations. So with that in our hearts, the desire and really the willingness and the preparedness to, go beyond our own needs and the needs of the children we were living with, and these verses the Lord spoke to our hearts. We prayed for contacts, and we prayed for opportunities in these countries to the north of Thailand. Within a very short time, really, I was contacted by a pastor from Myanmar, from Burma, and we agreed to meet and just have some kind of information exchange to talk about the Lord's leadings, how He has led us so far in our ministry, in our lives, sharing our testimonies. And as I was listening to him, I realized this brother has already taken some children into his family home. He was living in a small house with his own family, 3 children. And this house was also used for the church as their meeting place for Sunday service, Bible studies, prayer meetings. And he has already taken some children from the outside in who had no one else looking after them. And I was very impressed and very pleased that the Lord has brought us together in contact with each other. Because what my wife and I have known so far, having been living in Southeast Asia for 5 years, was many Christians, some churches and ministries, even Christian foundations, charities, they would do Christian ministry if they have been given the guarantee, if they've been given the promise, if they've given the pledge from outside support. For example, a church in Germany, a church in England, or a ministry from America might pledge, "Oh, we will support your ministry, we will support your place with a monthly amount on a continual basis." But this brother already has taken in some children into his own home because he felt the Lord has called him to look after these destitute children. So I was very pleased that we met and to share our testimonies together, and we basically left that meeting saying we seek the Lord, and if the Lord opens the doors and wants us to do something together, then He might show us, He will show us and open the way. Well, having said that, by now we have 3 homes in Myanmar, in Burma, and the Lord has used this brother to get contact to other people who are doing similar work, and so it has been great that we've been able to get into this country and open 3 children's homes. And this year, about a month ago, I was able to, for the first time, to visit the former capital of Myanmar, Burma, which is Yangon. And there's a brother exactly the same. He felt the Lord was calling him and his family to look after orphan children, and he has taken them into his own home. So later on I will share a little bit about that. But I want to start with our children's homes we have had so far. Well, first there is a Grace Life Children's Home, and we rent a house for Grace Life Children's Home's children and staff, the house parents. It's a 2-story house building, and on the ground floor we have a living room, and in the back there's the kitchen. On the first floor is other sleeping quarters, and we have made a partition for the boys and for the girls. Also there's a small bathroom, but basically it's only big enough for 1, maximum 2 children to be in there at the time. The danger is, or the not so nice thing is, the house is right on the street, so if you step out, basically the 2 steps coming out of the front door from the living room, you are on the street. So the children have basically no place to play. The surroundings of the building, it's in a residential area. There is no green, nothing, so the children cannot really go outside to play. So the only place they have is the living room where they can play. So we are praying and we're looking for a different house to rent. The rental in these places is also on an annual basis. So if we would start to rent a place in May, it goes to the end of April the following year. So that will be something to pray about and to look to the Lord for, and see what will happen there. And the next house is next home is called Mercy Home. It's kind of in a hill tribe setting, in a remote area, and sometimes this area is, as a foreigner, as a Westerner, I might not be able to visit because there is some armed conflict. There are some rebels and there are some drug barons who are active in this area, and also the Burmese army. So sometimes when the fighting flares up, obviously as a foreigner you're not allowed to enter. Well, our children's home, Mercy Home, is in that kind of area, and we rent a house there also on an annual basis with a little ground for the children to play. But we did not have any electricity until recently. When I visited a month ago, we purchased a solar panel, put it on the roof, and in Southeast Asia you have sunshine from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, all year round. It's not seasonal as it is with us in Europe. It's basically permanently from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening you have daylight. But apart from that you don't. And so when the kids get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, do their devotions and doing things, or in the evening have their meetings and doing homework or whatsoever, they had no electricity. So we were able to purchase some solar panels, put them on the roof. The electricity produced will be stored in a car battery. We purchased a car battery, and from there they feed the electricity, the electric lights. So that is an improvement, and we're quite happy about that. And the children there go to a school and have learn about the Lord Jesus as well. So that's quite nice, a nice setting there. Another children's home, Bethel House, is in Mandalay. Now for us there is no way to travel by car, by motorbike, by train, or by bus whatsoever to this place. So I have to fly from northern Thailand to Mandalay, and the children's home is situated outside of Mandalay. And this house as well is rented accommodation. The landlord or the landlady is trying to sell the house, sell the property, but because the price is so high, there seemed to be no one really interested in it at the moment. The house is also housing the local church. The brother who is pastoring a church is using the meeting room also as sleeping rooms for the children so far. So in one corner of the meeting room there was a curtain, and the girls were sleeping on the floor in that corner, and then the division with the curtains on the other side where the boys were sleeping there. Well, in the meantime we have been able to make some improvements and some extensions to the rooms, so the girls and the boys have now what we would call a shed. The boys have one shed and the girl have one shed where they can sleep and have their own kind of bedrooms. And also there have been an improvement with the toilets. So that is some improvement, but also it's nothing permanent. There is some land outside that village, outside that town. There is some land for sale, and we've been looking at that, and it's quite reasonable to purchase that land. The problem is, for the time being, the deed for the land is for agricultural purposes. So if we would purchase that piece of land for the first year at least, we would have to keep it with that deed for agricultural purposes. After that we might be able to change it for other purpose, which means we could start to build some homes on it. But it will take at least a year, if not two, before we can start building the first house on that piece of land. But this is something we are praying about, something we are looking to the Lord for the funding, and also if that is in His will for us to pursue. So that's Bethel Home in near Mandalay. And the last visit this year, as I said a month ago, to Yangon, I I heard about this brother and his family about a year ago, when the last time I spent 2.5 months in Southeast Asia. And I was told that this brother has on his heart to look after orphan children. And I was thinking, yeah, nice, good for him. And I was a little bit, because having had some experience also how people are over in different situations, I didn't want to get taken advantage of. And so I had that invitation in my mind for a long time, but this time really I felt like I should give it a go and make a visit there for a weekend, an extended weekend. So I went there, and to my great surprise I found a family who serves the Lord wholeheartedly. There's the father and the mother with 3 grown-up children. The oldest daughter is 25, the second daughter is 23, and they've got an 18-year-old son. They're living in a two-bedroom apartment in a house which is not very nice, not very clean. I had to swallow to go into that house, only visiting, but these people are living there. On top of that, this family has taken in 4 children so far. The children sleep in the living room, because obviously the bedrooms are occupied. The 3 siblings, 2 sisters and 1 brother, grown-ups, sleep in 1 bedroom, and the couple, husband and wife, father and mother, they occupy the other bedroom. So the children they sleep in the living room. And as I was listening to them and listening to their story, getting to know them a little, I was wondering how are they supporting the ministry so far? I mean, they have to pay rent, they have to pay electricity, they have to have food, clothes, and they're looking after 4 children. Have they got some kind of source, someone who is already supporting them? And when I asked the question, the pastor was sitting opposite me, and his daughter, his 23-year-old daughter, sitting next to me, because she is a teacher of English and Burmese language at school. And so she was stepping in if we had some kind of difficulties communicating with each other. And so I asked, where does the money come from? Where does the support come from? And this brother looked to his 23-year-old sister and said, oh, my 2 daughters, they are working as teachers, and they support us with their salary, with their monthly income. And that moment, I was like really taken, because there is a 25-year-old and a 23-year-old young ladies who just started teaching, starting their career as teachers. And with their monthly income, they not only support their own family, they pay the rent for the house, pay the bills for electricity, water and whatever, and pay for the food. They also have taken in 4 other children. And as I was talking to them and trying to get them to know them much better, I realized it's for them to look after the children is not an option. They have to do it because they knew that these children haven't got anywhere else to go, and they would have ended up on the street. So as we continued talking, they shared with me about their vision, their plans. They would like to take in even more children. They know of 6 other children, so that would 6 more children who live on the edge, closely to being street children, living on the street, begging daily for their food, because their parents have died and their relatives the extended family cannot look after them any longer. So they have this they know about these 6 children who need accommodation, and this family wants to take them in. So when I left this family there in Yangon, I really felt the Lord asking me and challenging me to support them as much as possible. And when I was praying and looking to the Lord for a word of encouragement I could leave with them, I couldn't leave much with them. But when I was looking to the Lord reminded me of these verses from Isaiah 54, verse 2 and 3, which the Lord has spoken to me 15 years ago about expanding and not to spare, because the Lord is with us and wants to encourage us to go forward in trusting Him and looking to Him, because He is faithful. And I thought, yes, this is certainly a kind of ministry and a kind of people I would like to work with and do everything I can to facilitate and their ministry. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for your time, and we will be meeting up again sometime. Bless you.